See what Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, said and how he said them. These are the top 40 of his epics. If you find value, don't forget to like and share it with your friends, they may value it too. Put in the comments section which quote or quotes you find value most. Enjoy watching. The man who makes everything that leads to happiness depends upon himself, and not upon other men, has adopted the very best plan for living happily. This is the man of moderation, the man of manly character and of wisdom. Apply yourself both now and in the next life. Without effort, you cannot be prosperous. Though the land be good, you cannot have an abundant crop without cultivation. People are like dirt. They can either nourish you and help you grow as a person, or they can stunt your growth and make you wilt and die. Those who intend on becoming great should love neither themselves nor their own things, but only what is just, whether it happens to be done by themselves or others. I never did anything worth doing by accident, nor did any of my inventions come by accident, they came by work. He who is of calm and happy nature will hardly feel the pressure of age, but to him who is of an opposite disposition youth and age are equally a burden. All things will be produced in superior quantity and quality, and with greater ease, when each man works at a single occupation, in accordance with his natural gifts, and at the right moment, without meddling with anything else. No man should bring children into the world who is unwilling to persevere to the end in their nature and education. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we are excellent, in fact we achieve excellence by acting rightly. Desires are only the lack of something, and those who have the greatest desires are in a worse condition than those who have none, or very slight ones. The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself. Bodily exercise, when compulsory, does no harm to the body, but knowledge which is acquired under compulsion obtains no hold on the mind. A library of wisdom is more precious than all wealth, and all things that are desirable cannot be compared to it. Whoever therefore claims to be zealous of truth, of happiness, of wisdom or knowledge, must become a lover of books. Love is born into every human being, it calls back the halves of our original nature together, it tries to make one out of two and heal the wound of human nature. The difficulty, my friends, is not in avoiding death, but in avoiding unrighteousness, for that runs faster than death. Only a philosopher's mind grows wings, since its memory always keeps it as close as possible to those realities by being close to which the gods are divine. When someone sees a soul disturbed and unable to see something, he won't laugh mindlessly, but he'll take into consideration whether it has come from a brighter life and is dimmed through not having yet become accustomed to the dark, or whether it has come from greater ignorance into greater light and is dazzled by the increased brilliance. A poet, you see, is a light thing, and winged and holy, and cannot compose before he gets inspiration and loses control of his senses and his reason has deserted him. And if he is compelled to look straight at the light, will he not have a pain in his eyes which will make him turn away to take in the objects of vision which he can see, and which he will conceive to be in reality clearer than the things which are now being shown to him? I am wiser than that fellow, anyhow. Because neither of us, I dare say, knows anything of great value, but he thinks he knows a thing when he doesn't, whereas I neither know it in fact, nor think that I do. At any rate, it appears that I am wiser than he in just this one small respect: if I do not know something, I do not think that I do. Some people are born to get married, have children and live happily ever after, and others to become philosophers. For it is clear, on the one hand, that you have been familiar with these things for a long time, whatever you wish to signify when you utter being, and, before this we used to believe it, but now we have been perplexed. No sooner have you achieved literacy and all other resources that cities require, than there again, after the usual numbers of years, comes the heavenly flood. It sweeps upon you like a plague and leaves only your illiterate and uncultured people behind. You become infants all over again, as it were, completely unfamiliar with anything there was in ancient times, whether here or in your own region. So I spoke the truth when I said that neither I nor you nor any other man would rather do injustice than suffer it, for it is worse. And therefore, I said, Glaucon, musical training is a more potent instrument than any other, because rhythm and harmony find their way into the inward places of the soul, on which they mightily fasten, imparting grace, and making the soul of him who is rightly educated graceful, or of him who is ill-educated ungraceful, and also because he who has received this true education of the inner being will most shrewdly perceive omissions or faults in art and nature, and with a true taste, while he praises and rejoices over and receives into his soul the good, and becomes noble and good, he will justify blame and hate the bad, now or in the days of his youth, even before he will recognize and salute the friend with whom his education has made him long familiar. Do not train a child to learn by force or harshness, but direct them to it by what amuses their minds, so that you may be better able to discover with accuracy the peculiar bent of the genius of each. The muse herself makes some men inspired, from whom a chain of other men is strung out who catch their own inspiration from theirs. The reason is that they utter these words of theirs not by virtue of a skill, but by a divine power. Otherwise, if they knew how to speak well on one topic thanks to a skill, they would know how to speak about every other topic too. Socrates, I'm afraid that it might actually be sacrilegious to stand idly by while morality is being denigrated and not try to assist as long as one has breath in one's body and a voice to protest with. In the running of cities, virtually nothing is done by anyone that is conducive to political health, nor is there a single ally with whom one might go to the aid of justice and still remain alive. It would be a case of a solitary human among wild animals, neither wanting to join in their depredations nor able to stand alone against their collective savagery, dead before he'd done any good to his city or friends and useless both to himself and everybody else. Once a person has made all these calculations, he keeps his peace and minds his own business, like someone withdrawing from the prevailing wind into the shelter of a wall in a storm of dust or rain, and as he sees everyone else filling themselves full of lawlessness, he is content if he himself can somehow live out life here untainted by injustice and impious actions, and leave it with fine hopes and in a spirit of kindness and goodwill. The love of man to woman is a thing common and of course, and at first partakes more of instinct and passion than of choice, but true friendship between man and man is infinite and immortal. We've heard many people say and have often said ourselves that justice is doing one's own work and not meddling with what isn't one's own. Then, it turns out that this doing one's own work, provided that it comes to be in a certain way, is justice. The matter is as it is in all other cases: if it is naturally in you to be a good orator, a notable orator you will be when you have acquired knowledge and practice. As a breath of wind or some echo rebounds from smooth, hard surfaces and returns to the source from which it issued, so the stream of beauty passes back into its possessor through his eyes, which is its natural route to the soul, arriving there and setting him all aflutter. It waters the passages of the feathers and causes the wings to grow, and fills the soul of the loved one in his turn with love. There is no necessity for the man who means to be in order to understand what is really just, but only what would appear so to the majority of those who will give judgment, and not what is really good or beautiful, but whatever will appear so, because persuasion comes from that and not from the truth. There is nothing which for my part I like better, Cephalus, than conversing with aged men, for I regard them as travelers who have gone a journey which I too may have to go, and of whom I ought to inquire, whether the way is smooth and easy, or rugged and difficult. Even now I'm well aware that if I allowed myself to listen to him I couldn't resist but would have the same experience again. He makes me admit that, in spite of my great defects, I neglect myself and instead get involved in Athenian politics. So I force myself to block my ears and go away, like someone escaping from the sirens, to prevent myself sitting there beside him till I grow old. To fear death is nothing other than to think oneself wise when one is not, for it is to think one knows what one does not know. No man knows whether death may not even turn out to be the greatest blessing for a human being, and yet people fear it as if they knew for certain that is the greatest of evil. There will be no end to the troubles of states, or of humanity itself, till philosophers become kings in this world, or till those we now call kings and rulers really and truly become philosophers, and political power and philosophy thus come into the same hands. All men are by nature equal, made all of the same earth by one workman, and however we deceive ourselves, as dear unto God is the poor peasant as the mighty prince. Tears were fated for Hecabe and Ilium's women from the day of their birth, but Dion, just when you triumphed with famous works, all your wandering hopes were cast down by the gods. Now dead in your spacious city, you were honored by patriots, but I was one who loved you, O Dion. Love is a serious mental illness. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified whenever there is new upload. Comment down below the quote number that you like most. We'll be glad to know it. Thanks for watching.